Okay, hi guys. Alright, after having a couple wee days, I thought I'd do a video. And I want to do a video showing you guys that, like I think I've said before, there's a big difference between reading and memorizing the instruction booklets and everything there is to know about a 747 and flying the 747. The reason why I use that analogy is X number one, the good guy. He is the one that told me that way before I died, and I think that's a fitting analogy here, in that even though I know how everything works and I understand all of these things that you don't remember yet, still I have to come and I have to walk moment to moment with a bunch of trauma and a bunch of belief systems, subconscious ones as well as conscious ones that I catch myself with all the time. So I still have to deal with those every day. So I think at the end of the last video I did, I said that I was going to go help a friend. Well, that friend was X number 2. So I try to put myself into positions where I'm kind of forced to practice what I preach. Not just a little, but a lot. So X number 2, we went to Dallas. He needed a navigator to go pick up a car that he was buying. And the pickup that we were using, his pickup, does not have air conditioning, and it is the middle of August in Texas. And it is very, very uncomfortably hot, especially since a lot of you know that I was born in Wyoming, and I'm kind of a northern person, and and on the heavier side. I'm not a skinny woman, and so the heat really gets to me. I've never assimilated to this heat, and it was so hot that, and the way we drove, he was getting direct sunlight on the side of his body. He also tends to be hypoglycemic, and he had not eaten, so he was definitely not on the higher vibrations at the beginning of that day. Of course, I called that version of him, didn't I? And I did what I told you guys not to do. He came, asked me if I wanted to go to Dallas, that he needed a navigator, that he had asked Stephanie, and he wasn't sure whether she really wanted to go. So I asked Stephanie, and she really didn't want to go, but she didn't want to be mean. She was working on something to do with her car. She absolutely would go with him if I wouldn't go, so he would have a navigator, but she really would have preferred to do some stuff that she needed to get done on the car that she's working on. So I agreed to go, but I did it with just a hint of resentment, like, oh, it's hot, there's no air conditioner, I could feel it creeping in. So it was early in the morning. I had not really fully become awake yet, and so there I was unconsciously creating without having a grip on that. And of course what that did was that drew an aspect of X number 2 that was not the best aspect, and he was very grouchy. The more grouchy he got, even though I was really working at correcting and seeing him as a happy, nice individual, there was underlying, I could feel that vibration where I was resenting his negativity, and it was hot, and I didn't feel good, and I do have some back issues, so driving for 14 hours with very few stops for any length of time is very painful. So of course for the second half of the day, that started to kick in as well. So about the time I got centered and chose to disregard the aspect of him that was being unpleasant, then the pain started to creep in, and then it went to spasms. So yes, day before yesterday was quite challenging for me. I never let it get completely out of control, but then I never did completely fix it either. And today, the day after that event, he's still pretty, whenever I talk to him, he's still very curt and not the most pleasant version of that he could be. So of course I look at that like that's what I'm drawing to me, my responsibility. So tomorrow I will be meditating, cleansing, correcting a lot of those lower vibrations. I also was expecting some gratitude, which I shouldn't have done. Of course, that's exactly opposite of what happened, of course, because that's how it works. So I was trying to correct that as well. But as you can see, I'm still doing these things that I talk to you about every single day, every moment of every day. Okay? So that ends that part of this video. Now, the next part of this video is I want to explain to you how I personally, I'm not saying my way is right or wrong, certainly is no better or worse than anyone else's lifestyle, or the way that I incorporate things like what do I eat, how do I keep the yard work done, how do I interact with the animals that are on the farm, and those in the wild around me, and insects. I do live in Northeast Texas. There are a lot of bugs here, a lot of bugs. It's very moist, so plants grow very rapidly here. And I live on a farm, and I do still eat some meat. Now, I don't eat very much of anything at this point, but what I do eat, I've been unable to use many of the suggestions as far as protein replacements, and as hard as it is to work towards that vegan lifestyle, if I go for too long, I get very weak, and I can't think straight, and then I eat meat, and that pops it right back up. So what I've learned is not to judge myself any more than I judge anyone else, and that I give my body what it needs. Now, in order to create as least amount of fear as possible on my little farm, we do have chickens, and we eat eggs, or I eat eggs. I've had cows, and I've milked cows. I've made cheese. I quit drinking so much milk, and I couldn't keep up with the amount of cheese that she produced, or milk that she produced. So I sold her to a wonderful little farm, and she is being treated like a giant dog. She's very happy. But I no longer have her. We have also had ducks, and we collect duck eggs. We did not have a rooster, nor did we have a male duck. So, what are those called? Anyway, so we knew that we did not have any eggs that were fertilized, so we tried to collect them and use them. We do have dogs, and I do tend to put eggs in with their food, and to help their coats be shiny. So any animal that we raise and butcher, which are very few, we are very good. I spend a lot of time making sure that I talk to them back and forth about how thankful I am that they chose me to live their life with, and that I promise to make their life here as pleasant and fun as I possibly can, and I do. So does my family. And then when it's time for them to go, I do this with as little fear as absolutely possible, and as quickly and as humanely as I possibly can. There certainly is no overcrowding on our little farm here. Any beef that I eat, it comes from a farm that's about 15 miles away. I go and talk to his cattle at least once a week, or a couple times a month, no less than a couple times a month, and tell them thank you for coming. I know that they treat that family, it's a family-run ranch. It's been in the family for generations, and they love the cattle. They love the animals on their ranch, and they're very conscientious about giving them exactly what they need to have a very, very happy life. Also, we get a lot of animals here. We're right by a highway, so we get a lot of animals that are dumped here. We also have a lot of feral cats. There are mountain lions, bobcats, wild hogs, coyotes, and wolves, and deer, raccoon, possum, squirrels, of course, many different kinds of birds, a couple ponds within walking distance that have fish. All of these animals and many, many, many more are in our immediate vicinity. Now, because I did die, and I remember that procedure, I also remember coming back and being very unhappy about it. I totally understand why an entity would come and be a plant or an animal on this planet and make it a short life, whether it's a fruit fly that lives 3 days or a chicken or a duck that would come and live a few months before they are slaughtered to be eaten by humans or other animals. So I understand from the standpoint of the now that they know what they're doing, and everything really happens in the now. Many plants and animals live in the now, even though it doesn't look like it. A lot of times, frequently, through the eyes of humans, but frequently they live in the now. So all of it, even though you can't comprehend that right now, maybe just take that knowledge and just store it away for later. When you get closer, as space starts to collapse, then you can reincorporate that into your life. Even the ones that are living in the illusion of time-space, their perspective of how long time is can be dramatically different from ours. Take, for instance, the fruit fly that lives 3 days. That can be, if you were to be able to live in their body, it would seem more like 20 or 30 years. Same thing can be true with a redwood tree that's around for hundreds and hundreds of years, but it can seem much shorter. So think of it like, you know how you go, you're getting ready for a trip that you've saved and saved and saved for. You're very excited about that trip, and you get in the car and you drive on this trip, and it just seems like it takes forever to get to your destination. Then you have a lovely trip, and you realize that the trip is over, and you're getting ready to go home, back to work and all your responsibilities, and it just seems like you just are, the trip from your holiday to your home just zooms by. And maybe somebody who's been in a wreck, let's say you're in a car and the car is flipping. People have reported that it just seems like it was in slow motion. Okay, all of those things can also happen with plants and animals. So they can speed it up, slow it down. Certain portions can be sped up. Certain portions at the beginning and end can be not experienced at all. They can go out of that body that they are going to or have been living in. So all of those things are very respectful, grateful, knowledgeable about where my food comes from. Also, we have a little farm that grows fruits and vegetables that I cannot grow or have not been able to grow so far. And I go get, it's a community farm, and I'm a part of that collective, and I am very grateful and talk a lot with those plants that I'm harvesting and am going to eat from that perspective. So I'm very aware of where the fruits and vegetables and meat comes from, dairy products as well. And I do go back and forth about what I eat and how often. I don't say that I'm on any particular diet. I tend to really try to go moment to moment and listen to what my body tells me and move forward from there, being very grateful and aware of where my food is coming from, as well as my water, my air, clothing, just about everything, but especially my food. Also, on the farm, if we don't keep the foliage and the trees and the bushes cut back, then they would very quickly, within 2 years, they would just encompass the houses and the barns and totally destroy them. So I do, when we first came here, I've had a discussion with the plants around the buildings and explained to them that we were humans and that we are going to be living here, that this is where we have chosen to live and why we were using this space and what we were going to need to do in order to protect the structures so we could continue to live there. So I communicated that, and always with a great deal of appreciation again. I appreciated their lovely greenery and everything that they gave to the farm, and I told them that you know, we would be cutting them back and clearing them out as needed and why. I also gave them an understanding that I realized that they were creator gods and that they knew that I was going to be doing this, we were going to be doing this, and it was their choice. I understood that it was their choice to die if I was going to be killing any of them or cutting back the grass. Before I cut the grass, of course, I always send out joy, light, love to try to reduce the fear in any kind of pain, to try to deaden that feeling of fear or that feeling of pain that they might have before I do any of that with the plants, or just like I would with the animals. Also, when it comes to insects, we have a great many insects, and I do the same thing with the insects that I do with the plants. I explain to them that we are living in this area, that I cannot have certain insects moving into our area. I kind of put up a bubble or a block, and I'm very clear, and my family is as well, that if an insect comes within that area, that it is understood that they wish to continue on their way, on their path, and that it is fine with them. They basically came to us for their death. So if they're within that bubbled area, we will try to remove them humanely and alive, if at all possible. If that is not possible, I send them joy, light, love, wish them on their path, and as quickly as and humanely as possible, send them waves of any kind of deadening agent, again to reduce their pain or any kind of worry or fear they might have, and then I will kill them as quickly as possible, like I do anything and everything that I have to kill in order to have our little area and to feed myself and my family and my animals. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so yeah, the first story, I just wanted to let you know that I still do struggle with these moments. Tomorrow I'll be spending a lot of time in meditation. As I've said before, I'm recentering and trying to analyze those vibrations, how I fell off of the tracks, off the wagon, so to speak, and get myself back on. Then I will probably interact with X number 2 again and see if I've improved. If not, I'll remove myself and go back into it, because I have felt myself quite easily annoyed today, mildly annoyed, but I'm not used to annoyed at all. So yeah, and I have a whole bunch of you guys that I need to call on the phone this next week. So yeah, I need to get myself recentered and on track, but I wanted to let you know that that's what happened and how I dealt with it. And I also wanted to let you guys know how I dealt with all those things that I talk about with you. Yeah, I think that's it. So I appreciate you guys' support so much, and your friendship, your love, this journey that we're on together. It means so much to me. I'm really trying to stay on top of it. So it's really, a lot of it's happening very, very fast. And so I'm trying to stay on top of it and do this right. I appreciate everyone's support and love and understanding. You have no idea how much it means to me. So, and I'm so excited to see y'all start talking together. Very excited about that. Okay, so I guess that's it. Huge hugs. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye now.